and then everything will work out right. And you could, you know, do this the next way that you would imagine it being done, and that is do some marginal cost pricing. Figure out what kinds of costs you should be imposing on the basis of people paying the marginal cost of traveling. The marginal cost will be the derivative of the total cost of travel, which is the cost including congestion Li of x times x. And you can work out these marginal costs, and you'll get 2x for the high road and 1 for the lower road. And then if you use those costs, which are called latency functions in the literature, then, and now we're 4 lines down, and you're looking at this very compressed little network, which is a directed graph, and you ask what's the equilibrium there where you're charging people marginal costs, so you probably think you're going to get the optimum, and you know what the optimum is in this case. It's 1/2, 1/2. Well, look at that one, and if 1/2 the people are traveling on the top one and 1/2 the people are traveling on the bottom one, then traveling on the top will cost 1, and traveling on the bottom will cost, low road will cost 1, and nobody can make a move and be better off. So that's not the big deal. The big deal is the amazing theorem of Roughgarden and Tardosh, which was just proved in the last few years. Roughgarden was a graduate student at Cornell when this was proved. Tardosh was a faculty member. And the big deal is that for all networks and all, that should say, convex latency functions, and you can do better than that, in fact, that you can't find any network. There is no network where the cost of anarchy is greater than these 4/3. So you really just, it's a very simple, wonderful, spare, elegant model where you're able to prove something that's uniform in all the possible networks. This can be networks with many sources and many sinks, and the paths may be very long, and there can be loops in them and all sorts of things that are possible. And it's still the case that that represents a worst case. That's quite an amazing and deep theorem. It also begs some very natural questions. If you had a network of roads, and this problem actually is, this is called Bray's paradox, and this problem is in Osborne's Baby Game Theory book, which is the book that I use for my very tough undergraduate, rather mathematical course, but we really stuff it full of mathematics, and they do individual choice theory before they do the game theory part. There are just lots of natural questions that come up, and that's the good thing about simple and spare models. What are the good ways to improve a network? If you have a network which doesn't come close to the optimum, what can you do to improve it? I mean, this sounds like exactly what economics should be about. I mean, it's the best kind of sort of thinking about social engineering, situations of market failure. So here's a nice little example. I give you another network. The source is S. The terminus is T. If on the path from S to A, there are X people traveling, then the mass of X traveling, then the cost is X. And likewise in the path from B to T, and you look at the Nash flow in this situation. It's pretty clear that if anything but half are going up and half are going down, then you're not going to be in equilibrium. Okay, if more than half go up and less than half go down, what would you want to do? You'd want to go down. It's cheaper. There's congestion on that upper right, upper left path. That's larger than congestion on the lower right path. So half have to go up, half have to go down. what's the cost of the Nash flow? Well, half will incur the cost 1/2 plus 1, and the other half will incur the cost 1 plus 1/2, and in your head you quickly see that the cost of the Nash flow will be 1.5. Is anybody a computer scientist in this room? So this is done by computer scientists. So, you know, somebody may be cackling in the back because this is, you know, so familiar from something else that you've seen. Now, you know, you sort of have this idea in individual choice problems that if you add another possibility for agents, if you give me more things that I can do, then it can't reduce my utility. And in fact, one of the things I push them through at the beginning of the course is some good treatment of expected utility and some good Bayesian statistical decision problems. And then I add things like you can test to see whether a worker has tuberculosis, and in fact that's a good test to give because your place may be closed down if the health authorities come and find out that there's tuberculosis. This is a little bit similar. We're going to add a road, and not only are we going to add a road, but we're going to add a free road. And we're going to see what happens to the Nash flow. What's the cost of the Nash flow in the case where we add a free road? And we're going to add a free road that goes from A to B. So you can see that on the bottom there. You now have another network problem. And the question is, how are you going to travel from S to T? Well, let's say you start upper left. If you continue, you're going to pay 1 going down to T. On the other hand, if you take the free ride down and then go up and across to B, the most you're going to pay is 1. You're likely to pay less than 1 if anybody else, you know, if the number of people on that is the mass is less than 1. So a little bit of looking at this says the only way that you can get an equilibrium is with nobody traveling on these 1 roads. They're very expensive. So you take X up, you go down, and you take X the rest of the way to T. And everybody had better be doing that in order to have a Nash equilibrium, because if some mass of people are not doing that, then they would do better by doing this rather than what they were doing, because they'll pay X instead of 1 on the part of the route that they're replacing. So the cost of that flow is what? Well, everybody's doing the same thing. They're all paying 1 on the first leg of their trip. They're going up, they're going down for free, and then they're going up the rest of the way. So they're all paying 2. So the cost of the flow is 2. How about that? You added a road. It was a free road, okay? And the cost of the network and the average cost for agents, in fact, increased. Not only did it increase, but it increased for every agent over what was happening in the first equilibrium. You know, you need transfers. That's called Bray's paradox. After I teach a version of that, I ask people to take a little bimatrix game and add a strategy for each agent. And show me you can find a game where when you add a strategy for each agent, both agents are hurt. Okay, that's what this is like, right?